This is Joe Krein from Elvis Express Radio. We're on Elvis Express Radio, and I'm from Elvis2001.net. And we have with us Victoria Paige Meyerink. Did I say that right?
You did. Hello, Joe. Yes, Victoria Paige Meyerink here from Los Angeles.
I was having the hardest time with that off tape here. Hey, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, where you grew up, what your parents did?
Well, let's see. I was born in Santa Barbara, California, and my parents moved to Los Angeles when I was about 2. My mother's an actress, Jean Baird, and I guess I sort of followed in her footsteps. It was a bit accidental, but I did get into commercials and television at a very early age of 2, and worked with my mom on a few print ads, and then really had my big break on the Danny Kaye show when I was more or less discovered at a Ralph's supermarket, singing in a shopping cart the score to Hans Christian Andersen.
Oh, there you go.
Looking for a child for the show, and it's my understanding they were looking for an older child, 10 or 11, and I was only 4. But the casting director, who was a friend of my mom's actually, insisted that I come in and meet him, at least, and I remember walking down the stage doors, the stage hallway at CBS, which hasn't changed at all, looks the same today, but walking down through these hallways and seeing all these kids lined up against the walls, and we checked in, and a couple of kids came and went, and then Danny Kaye sort of poked his head out the door, and I was a huge fan. And we exchanged glances, and he started playing hide and seek behind the door, and then he came out and held his hand out, stretched, and I took it, and we walked in, and they sent everybody home. And
wow.
So it began. You
just had this one-on-one with him.
We really just connected. It was instantaneous, mutual adoration. It was a very successful run. The ratings soared. It was a one-night event that turned into a 4-season commitment and launched my career. Certainly, I gained international notoriety at a very early age, and magazine covers and what have you, and then continued to work until I was about 14 or 15 straight through, including one of my favorite roles is Ellie Easterlake in Speedway with Elvis.
Oh, who's that? Now, a lot of people are going to ask, how can you remember? I guess if I did a movie with Elvis and I was 8 years old, I guess I would probably remember that, I guess. Do you remember a lot of what happened and what was going on?
Maybe I just have a great memory or something, but I remember things from when I was 2 and 3 years old vividly. I remember every show I've done, every person I've met, and absolutely every detail of Speedway.
That's incredible.
And Elvis, we had some great times filming that little movie.
Did you? How did you get the Elvis gig with Speedway?
I really think at the time I was very popular. I don't recall reading for it. I think I was just cast. It was offered to me, and my mother read the script, and my agents and managers at the time had read it and said, we think she should do it, and it was a done deal.
So did an 8-year-old Victoria Paige know who Elvis Presley was?
I did, but, I didn't have a huge knowledge of him and his music because we really didn't play that in the house. My family usually played classical music, some contemporary stuff. I knew of Elvis. I knew a few of his tunes, but I was never really starstruck. By that age, by the age of 8, I had, of course, spent 4 years with Danny Kaye, who was a dear friend, until his death in the early 80s. So I knew him my whole life. And I'd worked with Hudson and Clint Walker and Martha Heyer and Keenan Wynn and all sorts of big people. And I really wasn't fazed and a big fan of anybody. These were my friends. These were the people I worked with. We were fellow actors. Even at age 8, I took it very seriously. And these were buddies.
So you weren't blown away when you met Elvis?
Pardon me?
You weren't blown away when you met Elvis?
Of course. I loved the idea of working with him, and I thought this was great. I didn't faint. And he kissed me twice, in the movie alone, not to mention, hugs when we arrived on set and goodbyes. So.
Can you tell me about the first time that you met Elvis?
I remember it very, very formal. I went up and he introduced himself. Well, hello, I'm Elvis Presley. And I remember extending my hand and saying, hello, Mr. Presley. Very nice to meet you. And I always called him Mr. Presley. I never called him Elvis. To me, that was, very informal, and I was a very formal little kid.
And what did you think of what did you think of him as being an actor? Here you were 8 years old, and you had done a lot. What did you think of Elvis with his acting? Did you think he was good?
I really think he was, and I think he had more to give as an actor. I don't think we saw all that he was capable of, and I've read since, in recent years, accounts that he was a bit frustrated, that there were films, more dramatic films that he wanted to do, and they kept, pegging him in these sort of little comedy, musical, farce sort of movies.
Yeah.
Very light, fluffy movies that weren't really substantive, and I think he would have really sunk his teeth into a meaty role.
Yeah, I like to call them cookie cutter movies.
That worked.
One was the same. Elvis finds girl. Elvis loses girl. Elvis gets mad at girl and sings her back, but basically they were all the same. Yeah, and a lot.
You're right. They are very formula movies.
Yeah.
They were wonderful, but I think, Speedway was really made on the decline of the acting days. It was not at the height, and it was just one movie after the other. Formula cookie-cutter movies, as you described. And I thought he was great. In fact, I have a new venture, which I can tell your listeners about.
Sure.
An exclusive announcement that I'm now the co-founder and co-executive director of the Independence Film Festival in Colorado. It's the Independence Film Fest of Colorado. And it's September 5th through 9th in Leadville and Buena Vista, Colorado. And this first inaugural year, we have several tributes, and next year, the big surprise in 2008, is we are going to be honoring Elvis as an actor.
Wow.
As an actor, not a singer.
Wow, would I love to be there for that. Wow, that's cool.
Maybe we can arrange that.
Hey, don't promise. Hey.
So, of course, we'll be running Speedway, and I will be there, along with, I'm hoping, William Shallard. I'm hoping I can get him up there, too.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned him, so how was working with William Shallard?
Oh, Bill's great. He's just the ultimate dad. Every actress in the world, every little girl wants to have Bill Shallard for their dad. In fact, I was so excited on Speedway because not only was I working, with the Elvis Presley, but, Bill Bixby's My Favorite Martian, which of course is my favorite TV show.
I was a big fan.
Patty Duke's dad. Bill Shallard. So I was ecstatic. It was a dream cast for me.
A lot of the people that I've talked to, they all say that Elvis liked to fool around and play games on the set. Do you remember any of that going on?
He was a prankster. I remember him doing stuff. I don't remember specifics, but there was always a lot of laughter and a lot of fun. He has a very boyish charm. He was a big kid. I got the sense he was a big kid. He loved hanging out with me. We spent every lunch, after eating, we'd go back to my trailer because I had snuck a little kitten onto the set. Its mother had died. I guess it's getting kind of a little famous story that MGM wouldn't let me bring the cat to the lot, so we put it in a shoebox and snuck it in. And, of course, I confided in my best buddy, Elvis, that I had this, unauthorized kitten in my trailer. And he came to the trailer every lunch and fed that kitten and helped me keep it alive.
Wow.
And those are really special times that we shared, and the rehearsal times, and such a pro.
So you had a lot of one-on-one time with him then?
Oh, absolutely.
Can you remember any of the things that you talked about? What would he talk about with you?
He told me all about, he told everyone. He made the announcement that Priscilla was expecting during Speedway.
Yeah.
And I remember him standing up on I think it was a platform or a bunch of apple boxes they had put up for him, and he gathered the cast and crew and said, hey, everybody, Priscilla's pregnant, we're expecting a baby. And then he ran over to me and said, I want a little girl just like you, and picked me up and swung me around, and it made headlines.
Yeah.
Because he got his wish, he got a little girl.
That's what he got.
And he told me all about that. He said, I want a little girl, I want to play with her, and I want to take her places, give her everything in the world. And he was so excited about that. He was so anticipating.
Did you run into Priscilla there? Did you remember Priscilla? Do you remember Priscilla being on the lot?
You know, I don't. I don't think she came to the set, or if she did, I don't recall her being there. I'm hoping to see her, you know, this year at Elvis Week, because she will be there, and it would be great to meet and catch up.
Were you lucky enough to get any gifts or anything that Elvis gave you, or?
Elvis actually did not give me a car with my name on the side of the door, like he did Nancy Sinatra.
Yeah.
Let's see. No, actually, when I had surgery later on, several years later, he sent me one of his albums, I think, just before its release, which was very sweet. And we really didn't stay in touch much afterward. I think there had been invitations to come to Graceland, and the schedule was always so packed.
Oh, my goodness.
That it was really more up to my agents and managers and my mom to get me there, and for one reason or another, I mean, when you're a kid, it's not 100%, within your control, but...
So he wanted you to come and visit.
In control of my life then, as I am now, I would have gone to Graceland and said hello once in a while.
Yeah, so he wanted you to come and visit, so you really did hit it off.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I remember we spent a lot of time in our little director's chairs and talking about the books that I would make. Because I would make these little handmade books, drawings and poems and just all sorts of little things I'd collect and put together. Not scrapbooks, but things I would write and draw. And he liked my alphabet book. And I remember him saying he really would like one. So I went home one weekend and I made one just for him.
Oh, wow.
And gave him that. But he liked all my little books. He was very encouraging and encouraged the creativity, encouraged that side.
And I'm sure it's still there in Graceland, because if there's one thing that Elvis did, he kept everything.
Well, we'll have to dig that out.
Yeah, you should have asked when you were there, because you were there last year with Bill as guests for EP, were you not?
Yes, we were. We were actually the guest speakers at the fan club president's meeting.
Yeah, I heard it was very, very popular.
It was quite an event. I'd never been so stunned. The autograph line was 4.5 hours long, and what a blast meeting all the fans. I'm so anxious to be back again this week and see everybody again this year.
Now, what will you be doing? I don't want to forget where my questions are here, but what will you be doing this year while you're down there?
This year, they've asked me to come back and be at the Insiders events, make an appearance there, although they're jam-packed with lots of guests, so it won't be a whole lot of, one-on-one time. But I will be at the Expo on the August 12th, 13th, and 14th. Okay. And I'm hoping also to go to the Fan Appreciation Day down in Tupelo, which I guess is on the 11th, isn't it?
Yeah, wow.
I've never been to Tupelo except to do a very early morning show there, a TV show last year. I was there at 5 in the morning and then turned around, went to another one in Memphis. I didn't get to see a whole lot of Tupelo, but I would love to see his birthplace.
Yeah, that's something that you really need to do. And believe it or not, I have never done that, but I'm going to do it one of these days when I can get down to Tupelo. Hey, can you remember when the movie was all done and it was time to leave? Did Elvis say goodbye to you?
Oh, we did. Lots of hugs, and I actually have a favorite lunch that I remember, because we'd usually have lunch in the commissary there on the MGM lot. And one day in particular, it was Bill Bixby, Elvis, and me, and the three of us were having lunch. And Elvis asked me, if you had to decide which one of us you were going to marry right now, which one of us would you pick?
That's not fair.
It's not fair, but I was a very diplomatic 8-year-old, and I said, well, I love you both. I can't possibly decide.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Now,
I actually had a huge crush on Bill Bixby.
Did you? Oh, the magician.
Well, at the time, he was my favorite Martian. I don't think Magician and Courtship of Eddie's Father after that. So,
yeah.
So, I loved The Magician. That was a great
movie. Yeah, that was. I wish it had stayed on longer than it did.
He's a lovely man. I'm so sorry he suffered.
Yeah. And we lost, and Elvis. way too young. Do you remember?
It's tragic. It's always the great people who have so much left to give, and it just breaks my heart.
Yeah, the good dude die young. Do you remember how you had heard and that Elvis had passed away?
I was at school, and there were sort of, I remember mumblings and rumblings at school. People seemed to know, and there was always something about, oh, someone died. It was a celebrity type of school. I went to Westlake School for Girls in Holmby Hills, and a lot of stars kids. So they all had the dirt, and they knew stuff. And I really didn't believe it. And then my mom picked me up at school, and we were listening to the radio and heard it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I found out.
Wow.
And I just thought, what a tragic loss. And
Mm-hmm.
I was particularly always leery of the press I heard in the later years. It's not the Elvis I knew.
Right.
I never saw him with an entourage. As much time as we spent together,
Really?
there were never all these people around him whispering in his ear or guiding him in any way. If they were, I didn't see it.
Yeah, that was a question I was going to ask you, if you remember any of the Memphis Mafia being around.
No, I don't. It was always him. He was very accessible. And
How about the Colonel?
I don't remember him at all. I don't think he was there.
And that's probably not a bad thing.
I have no idea. You know, I don't know one way or the other. I only know what I've heard since. But the Elvis I knew was an absolute Southern gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
Always, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. Very gracious, so kind, so polite, such a professional. I learned so much from him. You know, the stars today don't know how to behave on set. They're instant, overnight, most of them kids, and they don't handle it well. I don't think they realize what power they have and what kind of a positive impact they could have on the world if they use the power that they have really, really well and to do good. It's just all about me. It's the me generation. Give it to me now, give it to me yesterday. I should have had it a year ago. It's a mindset I can't relate to. And Elvis was so gracious. He always took time with fans. Whenever we walked down the streets there at MGM on the location of the Speedway shoots, he'd take time. Anybody could walk up to him and say hello and ask for an autograph. And these, of course, it was a little safer. It was a studio lot. He wasn't getting, raced by fans. But and charged at or hurt in any way. But he didn't have a security force around him. And he always took time out. And he always knew his lines. And he was always pleasant to work with. He was never grumpy or depressed or angry and didn't throw tantrums that I was aware of. And people that do that. So he was a pro. And, gosh, I remember meeting Meatloaf at the commissary. Real normal, great guy. And it's interesting. When I was in Memphis last year, Joe, I ran into so many people, not the fans, but residents there in Tennessee, throughout Tennessee. Because I've toured Tennessee while we're promoting the features I now produce as well. So I've been there several times, in addition to my times for Graceland. But everybody has stories about the gracious, polite kid. Elvis, and what a great guy he was, and what a normal person he was.
And very
how
giving.
Unpretentious, and how kind, and how giving, and how genuine. And these are like lost qualities in today's generation.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
I hold that very close to me. The Elvis, all the stories after his death and everything, I don't even know that person.
Yeah.
And I can't even speculate if it was true or not. I wouldn't know. It's not the person I knew.
How was Nancy Sinatra to work with?
Very nice. We had several scenes together. Very sweet. A pro. I loved watching her work. I loved the dance numbers. She had such a great feel, and she could really move, and I loved watching them. I'd sit on the sides. I wasn't in some of the bigger numbers there in the little cafe, in the Speedway, the racetrack bar, and the grill area, but all those big production numbers I wasn't in. But I got to sit there and watch them shoot those.
Yeah.
And that was really fun.
And she really clicked with Elvis. You can see it on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
You could...
I guess they had met years before.
Oh, yeah.
So they actually had been friends for a while.
Yeah.
And I think that showed. But he enjoyed working with everybody. I mean, Bill enjoyed working with him, Bill Shallert and Bill Bixby. Bill Shallert has great memories of working with Elvis. They were locked together in that car for half a day shooting the process shots when they were driving around the track.
Were there other kids in that movie?
There were the younger children, 3 other younger sisters of mine. I was sort of the...
Do you see any of them anymore?
Sister. No, I don't think they're even working. One was the director's granddaughter. And I never stayed in touch. They didn't stay in touch.
So what are you doing now?
Wow. Well, let's see. A lot happened since Speedway. How far do you want me to go back?
Well, what you're doing... okay. What did you do after you stayed in the business?
I did stay in the business. I never left the business. I sort of switched from in front of the camera to behind the scenes. But when I was about 13, I had to have a series of operations on my leg that took me out of the loop for a couple of years. And by the time I came back and was able to walk again, I'd really kind of grown up. And I never had an awkward stage. I just sort of dropped off the face of the earth for a couple of years while I recovered. And when I came back, the business was a little bit different, and I was really focusing on school. And I graduated with great grades from Westlake, and I went on to USC, and I was a double major in international relations and music theory and composition, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And right around then, I met Lawrence Fuldis, who is a wonderful director-writer of feature films, and I was still on crutches and unable to really work in front of the cameras, and it was his idea. He said, look, I'm doing this feature this summer. Why don't you work with me? Why don't you get behind the scenes? Because I had always learned production from being on the sets and growing up on sets my whole life. But I was very inquisitive. I'd always inquire, why are we scheduling it this way? Why are you tagging the wardrobe a certain way? Why are we shooting it this way? How many cameras? What are the lens sizes? Whatever. Anything I could pick up. I was a sponge. I just picked it all up. He said, why don't you bring your knowledge behind the scenes? You can't act right now. And, help me with this movie. So I pretty much produced the Great Skycopter Rescue, which ended up being a CBS Friday night movie. And that was really the beginning of our relationship. That was 1979. And I'm still with Lawrence. We were married in 1983.
That's good.
And we've done 9 features, and did Young Warriors with Ernest Borgnine and Richard Roundtree and Linda Day George and Jimmy Van Patten, which it's having a real resurgence in popularity at the moment.
Wow. Did you later become...
That's coming up a bit.
After you worked with Elvis, did you become an Elvis fan?
I have, over the years, developed a real appreciation for his music. I was always a fan of the person. And as I became more aware of his music, the older I got, the more of it I listened to. And now I put it on and just have a blast. What a talent. What a talent. He was so ahead of his time.
Well, what do you think of the...
I don't think at that age I had quite the appreciation for it. I just didn't know enough about him at the time.
What do you think of the never-ending popularity of Elvis Presley?
It's amazing. It's absolutely phenomenal. And it is a phenomenon. I don't think we'll see this again. It's kind of that Princess Diana.
Yeah.
One in a billion. I think, Diana ranks up there in terms of the love that people have and the impact these people had on people's lives. It's just remarkable. I think it self-generates. I think it's from generation to generation. I think Elvis fans, diehard Elvis fans, are raising their children with that passion. And so...
What are you doing now, then?
Well, now my latest film is Finding Home with Jean-Pierre Bujold and Louise Fletcher. And it's been in theaters, it's now on television, it's out on DVD. And now we're doing something a little bit different, a bit of a departure. We were asked to head up a new film festival called the Independent Film Fest of Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And our first year, our inaugural year, will be this year in September from 5th to 9th in Leadville and Buena Vista, Colorado. And the big announcement for Elvis fans is that next year, in 2008, we are going to be honoring Elvis as an actor.
Well, it's about time.
It is about time. So you asked me what I thought about him and his acting. I really think he was quite natural and very good. And we want to salute him for the acting that he, and the great performances he left us, and the moments on screen that we all treasure. So that's in 2008, September. So I encourage anybody who wants to be part of that to drop us a line. Visit the website at www.independencefilmfest.com and get in touch with us. Tell us you want to be on the mailing list, and we will let you know about the Elvis event of 2008. And of course, I'll be at Elvis Week next month, August 12th, 13th, and 14th. I'd love to meet people and hope that anyone from the UK and everywhere else is visiting. It is the big 30th year, and it sounds like it's going to be quite spectacular.
It's going to be a big one. It's really going to be a big one.
It's huge. I think everything is sold out, and EPE has tons of events planned, and it's just the vigil. I can just imagine. Last year, it was so breathtaking. All the candles and just the reverence of such a huge crowd. I can't imagine this year what it will be like with probably triple the amount of people.
What did you think of Graceland when you went through it?
I loved it because it was so real. It is not ostentatious. It is a beautiful house. And by today's standards, it would be, a Bel Air guest house. It's just lovely. I think, the decor is pretty wild, and it's like a little time capsule.
Yes.
It's such a time capsule.
Very Elvis.
They even have what I love the most is the old video surveillance system. From I think it was the early 70s, actually. Late 60s, early 70s. And it still works.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. And the jungle room was just really wild. I'd love to be able to go upstairs, but no one has.
You and everybody else.
I've heard that Priscilla and Lisa Marie do watch the vigils occasionally from that bedroom window.
Really? Is that what you were told?
Yes, it is.
Wow. Well, did you ask about upstairs?
Pardon?
Did you ask about upstairs?
I did.
What did they say to you? This is just to be funny. What did they say to you?
What did they say to me?
Yeah, would they tell you no one's allowed upstairs, or?
They said they'd blocked that off and that no one's gone up there. That's why a lot of the items from the upstairs were taken elsewhere and either put in the museum or in the other areas of the house.
Yeah.
My favorite thing, though, was last year during Elvis Week, they took a few of us up there, some of the guests, at night after
in
the
Graceland.
tours had closed. And that was like being there when the family was home. You could imagine Elvis being in the jungle room, or a barbecue happening out back, or him out there riding the horses.
Yeah.
It was so pleasant and so quiet and such a lovely place to be. You can understand why he loved his home so much.
Yeah.
It's very different when you walk through and there's hundreds of people. Even though the tour groups are small when you go through. But with the throngs of people, it's hard to get a sense of that it's a home.
Yeah.
And not a tourist attraction. It is a home. And I really got a sense for it that evening. It was such a joy. It was feeling as if it was still that home, unchanged, still the way he had loved it, the way he had it, the way he left it, and you could just feel his presence in there.
Did you meet Priscilla or Lisa Marie?
No, I have not had that pleasure. I'm hoping this year that we'll have that chance.
Yeah.
I'd certainly love to tell Lisa Marie the story and my remembrances of the day that she was expected.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for doing this for Elvis Express Radio.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Lovely meeting you, Joe. You're a great guy.
Okay, thank you.